I've always wanted to play it first. It's a really big piece in our repertoire. It's very important as percussionists. I think if you talk to a lot of professionals that have been in the field for a long time, so many percussionists have played this piece just because it's so important for us. I mean, it was one of the first pieces that expanded our instrument, usage, like the amount of things that we get to use and the way that we use them with extended techniques and things like that. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it's one thing to play a piece, I think, of this magnitude. It's another thing to be approached by the pianists and not have to fish and find people, And so it's
Right.
always a joy to be approached by two amazing pianists,
Right.
asking, "Have you heard of this piece? It's so cool." And then we're like, "Yeah, of course.
Right,
We'd
because
love to do that," because it means that you guys all, the pianists that we're playing with, care just as much as we
Right.
do. Every time I'm asked to do a new piece or a piece that's unfamiliar to me, I always find myself relearning the notation, especially when you're playing multiple unpitched percussion instruments. They're in different parts of the staff and you're not sure where you're looking. There's always an amount of time. What Crumb does really well is he lays out his percussion parts very smartly. He gives you enough time in the piece to move between instruments and get your extended techniques ready, your bows, whatever you're doing. So while yes, there is a learning period, I don't feel like any of this is unplayable or not fun.
No, yeah, definitely not. I mean, everything that he does makes sense. A lot of it has just been absorbed into, I guess the canon of percussion playing. I mean, a lot of what he did set the stage for what future composers did because it just makes so much sense.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with like all the techniques that we're doing here. The things that we use are normal now. Well, not exactly normal, but they're definitely much more accepted than they used to be. Placing things on the timpani and using that, to get that sound chamber as a resonating chamber for other instruments is common now. I mean, all these accessories.
Yeah, bowing crotales, bowing
Right, yeah.
vibraphone.
Yeah. We both actually a couple summers ago did the American Songbook by George Crumb. It's funny, we were both on that same piece too.
Yep.
That one, I think, would you agree that it's a little more strict in terms of how the time operates in that piece?
I would agree, and part of that reason is probably because there are just more musicians in the ensemble. Totally.
And there's settings of like battle hymns and old songs
so
and
they
stuff
have
like that.
particular tempos that they're used to going.
Whereas this piece is much more abstract in the way that it uses time as a function. Yeah, I agree with you that there's often this sense of sort of like a impenetrable pulse that just happens underneath the music, even when the listener can't necessarily hear it. But there are also times where he clearly wants to deviate from a normal musical pulse. He doesn't have bar lines or normal divisions of time in huge sections, and he just wants us to be able to make sounds that cascade off one another regardless of where they may or may not fall in a metronome beat.
A lot of our percussion music, solo, ensemble, with orchestra, is such in time. You think about a snare drum solo, it's like exactly straight in time.
Yeah.
You think about, like the Reich Mahler Quartet, that
Sure.
that one's straight in time all the way through.
Right.
We rarely get an opportunity as percussionists to have an established pulse, but within that pulse you really get to play with it and bounce off of other musicians. And that's one of my favorite parts about this piece especially, because there's just so much space.
I think this piece really can be seen as a piece of programmatic music. He has a lot of images that he evokes. I think that's one of the best ways to make it accessible is by, inviting an audience to create scenes for themselves as the piece is going on. And know that while it's incredibly non-traditional in terms of its harmony and its instrumentation and all that kind of thing, it definitely does a beautiful job of being something that paints scenes, and so therefore I think most people that enjoy it are just captivated by the sounds and the worlds that we create and are able to come up with their own story for what's going on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you can, while you're listening to this piece, keep in mind not just the kinds of sounds we're making, but also the wide range of dynamics we have. We have everything from barely audible to filling in the entirety of Gusman Hall with just
Right.
4 people.
Right.
and approach this piece as you would honestly is expecting to be moved. I think there are some really beautiful, haunting, threatening, every type of emotion is expressed in this piece.
Yeah,
so
joy, ecstasy. There's so many different moods that you can get out of this, that I think allowing yourself to go on that trip is important if you're going to be listening.
Yeah, and definitely be watching, because there's a lot of movement going on between us two.
Yeah.
And in the pianists themselves and how they're making these sounds.
Yeah,
that's one of my favorite things, is just getting inside of a piano or
Right.
getting inside of a setup and moving around,
Yeah.
trading instruments, throwing mallets at each other.
I don't know about that.